Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder videos, tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to This Week in D&D, where I break down the news surrounding Dungeons & Dragons, 5th edition, and the tabletop RPG industry. Welcome to the week of June 12th, 2025. It was my mom's birthday yesterday. We went out to eat and celebrate for that. Unfortunately, my wife has got like pseudo food poisoning now, so kind of a betrayal of the whole going out to eat celebrating thing. But shout out to everybody with June birthdays. I always figured June was like the best month to have a birthday because you're exactly halfway in the year, and summer birthdays are awesome. My own birthday is next month in July, which is almost the perfect day for a birthday. Certainly haven't any complaints there. Although the next birthday in my family is actually my youngest, who is the July 4th weekend birthday. She's right around that same time. So what's going on in D&D? Well, the first thing we're going to talk about is something on D&D Beyond called Borderlands Quest: Goblin Trouble. This is not DLC for Borderlands. This is, I don't know why it's called Borderlands Quest. It has something to do with like Keep on the Borderlands or something, but it's from International Day of Play, which is, I'm just going to read the thing right here. The mission of International Day of Play, or IDOP, not to be confused with the International House of Pancakes, is to emphasize the importance of play for children in their social and academic development and create opportunities for safe and accessible places to play. June 11 has been recognized, so I guess yesterday, well, has been recognized by the United Nations as the International Day of Play, and to celebrate the universal right to play and accelerate global action to protect, promote, and prioritize opportunities to play. Global action to protect the opportunity to play. So this is a free introductory adventure on D&D Beyond, and not just by I mean, it literally like is designed to teach you Dungeons and Dragons. Which there was, oh gosh, what was the name of it? I reviewed another adventure that did exactly that. I can't remember the name of it now. It was maybe it was for an International Day of Play. I didn't even notice. Some of you will probably recall, but I remember the story was like you had like a baby, or you had a dragon egg, I think, that you ended up saving from some creatures. You ended up like returning it to the dragon. I think that was the right one. And the whole story is like very like minimal stat blocks and really designed to specifically just help the party, or help everybody, even for a DM, a new DM, to learn Dungeons and Dragons, like level one, very introductory adventure, and that's what this one is. So you can claim this on D&D Beyond. I don't know how long you can claim it for, maybe in perpetuity or for whatever, however long. There's no time frame on here, but it does come with the pre-made character sheets, specifically the same ones from that you've seen over and over again, that are the ones from the animated cartoon back in the day that they showed in the movie as a brief cameo. And it is a level one adventure, basically a cave dungeon crawl. Let's see, is there a blurb about it? It takes the players on an exciting D&D journey to retrieve a stolen gift and unveil the mystery surrounding it. Includes 8 pre-made character sheets and helpful guidance every step of the way for the dungeon master. Yeah, it just says it's free to register D&D Beyond users. Yeah, you do have to have an account, obviously, because that's how you get these things. Which I can show it to you because I did claim it real quick just to show it. Chris is okay. I did touch base with him, Sylvan. He is in LA, but yeah, we went back and forth joking about how it's an apocalyptic wasteland over there, but of course that's absolutely not what's happening. Based on Keep of the Borderlands. Okay, good. So I got at least some of the reference there. I have not ever looked at, reviewed, or run or played in Keep of the Borderlands, so I'm not quite familiar, other than I know that name. Was that a third edition? Second edition, like starter adventure? It was like very popular, right? It was like kind of the lost mine of Fandelver back in its day, maybe. So it's a level one adventure. It's definitely, yeah, it's a short adventure meant to last approximately 1 to 2 hours of play. And it really helps walk everybody through exactly how to do. Like it breaks down, like here's what you should read out. Here's the way skill checks works. Here's how initiative works. Armor class, hit points, skills, like all the things you need to know to successfully run a mini Dungeons and Dragons adventure. I think this one does actually, it is maybe a little bit more advanced than the last one that I reviewed, if I recall, because the last one didn't even have like maybe even skill checks or something. It was very, very basic. This one at least has all of that, but it does help everybody walk through things. So it's designed for basically even if the DM is completely new, they can do. And from what I can tell, it's fine. Like it's basically a cave dungeon crawl. It's got a map by Dyson Logos on here, which I guess, spoiler if you want to, I don't think anybody here is probably going to run it, but unless you want to run it for, again, like very, very new players or something. But there's a hook that you're chasing after some thieves that stole this bowl, I guess, which it does turn out to be a magical bowl at the end. You meet the bandits, and there's an interesting note on here where it says, maybe it's later on. Yeah, okay, role-playing the bandits. They're a pair of thieves who care only for money. The decisions they make or the decisions you make for them should keep their goals in mind. One's an orc, one's a human. They're both women. And then other than that, it's like, yeah, otherwise you can differentiate them any way you want. Is one the leader, one the other father? They like each other. Is there some animosity brewing between them? You can add as much or as little to the story as you want. I have kind of mixed feelings about this. Like, on the one hand, that's nice to be able to explain to a new DM that's like, hey, these are your characters to make and mold however you want with their own backstory. On the other hand, it would have been nice if they had like a default, personality or relationship situation, a situationship, I guess is what the kids say now, to fall back on. Like, because again, if you're running a pre-designed adventure, that's kind of what you want. You expect like the characters to have all of that baked in, and I worry that they're, maybe a new DM would get the wrong idea. They're like, oh man, I have to flesh out like every single NPC that I come across. Well, no, but you can, you can do that with everything, and it's important to have that note there. But, and see, I'm criticizing this adventure. But if I were designing it, I would have a default like, hey, here's the situation. They're frenemies or whatever else. Like, here's the default. But if you want to change any of that, or if you want to have ties to your characters or whatever, then you can absolutely do that. There's a little bit of a trap here, and there's a chance for you can sneak around the bandits, you can fight them, you can talk to them, which is nice. It gives you all those options. And then you fight a bunch of goblins. There's one that has a little magic staff, although it just casts continual flame. And then she's got like a giant centipede on a leash, which is kind of a cool like mini boss fight for a low level party. And there are notes about adjusting encounter difficulty, which is nice. So if you have fewer than 4 characters and more than 6 characters, there's adjustments to be made. Some of them flee, some of them battle. I love the little bit that if you talked to the bandits, then that can kind of bite you in the butt, because they definitely won't be forthright with you and really help you. They'll basically stay back and try to reclaim the bowl that was... I think the idea is they stole the bowl and they sold it to the goblins. Now they're trying to get the bowl back. So I like that there's like 2, quote-unquote factions that are against each other, and neither of them are fully with the party either. There's a little bit of a danger area with the forge and the bowl, and then the players can like save this bowl as a final little twist, where it turns out the MacGuffin they're after is actually a magic item, and then a spirit comes out and they have to basically save this bowl, which is not formally a skill challenge, it says non-combat challenge, but it does say it works in rounds. So I guess you could just put, instead of being a skill challenge, you just leave everybody in combat maybe. I wonder if it says, let's see, at this point in the game, you might have the challenge is not combat, but it's still tense and exciting. The characters need to quickly repair the silver bowl before the magical spirit that inhabits it perishes. So, I mean, and it's good to have this in an introductory adventure, too. Try to come up with unique ways to help repair the bowl. If it's better to work with players figuring out how a similar action might work. In other words, if they want to use strength, try to smash it, maybe you can try to pound the dent back into shape. The bandits are probably going to steal the bowl back, for example, and it mentions the fact that they could cast like mending, but only do that once. So I do like the fact that this is in here as a skill challenge. So they do a good job of covering like all the very basic, like, hey, is there an opportunity for role playing? Is there opportunity for a little bit of exploration with a bit of that little tiny dungeon crawl there, and obviously we got to have some battle in there, and it's basically all couched around a dungeon crawl, which again is the way to do it, I think. So overall, my quick review would be basically a thumbs up for what it is, which is a very, very easy, stripped down, bare bones introductory dungeon crawl. And I think this is the perfect thing that probably should be offered for free for folks, because that's, I mean, every industry you should offer like the sampler, for free to get people hooked, and then you charge for all the other crap. So that is Borderlands Quest Goblin Trouble. So I don't, it's part of basic D&D. Okay, so it's been there for a while. But what is the tie-in here? Like, I'm not sure what exactly it has to do with, like... I don't know. Is there like going to be a series of adventures that say Borderlands? Has there been other adventures that are Borderlands Quest colon something? That was the only part I guess I didn't get. It was like, what is the significance of tying it to that? Is this drawn from that? So if you're familiar with that adventure, is this like a cave from that story? Okay, there it is. Well, Eric, if you just kept reading, you would answer your own damn question. If players are interested in more adventures, you can continue the story in the D&D starter set, Heroes of the Borderlands, available in September 2025. There's my damn answer. So maybe this is a tease for the upcoming starter set, which I probably should review, even though I don't really normally cover the starter sets, but I really should, because that's where a lot of people obviously get their start and are looking for if they're worth getting. The set provides more information on this area and plenty of opportunity for more adventures. So I guess that cave map, which makes sense because it's a big cave map for only like basically 3 or 4 encounters. Yeah, keep on the Borderlands. It even says there as the conclusion. Okay, so there you go. I totally missed because I didn't read the last continuing the story section, but it is tied into the upcoming starter set Heroes of the Borderlands, which we know is inspired by the original Keep on the Borderlands. So that's neat, I guess. So that's on D&D Beyond. Also on D&D Beyond is... Oh, not that one. We've got the Gunslinger Class. So the only thing I know about the Gunslinger Class is it was, I believe, one of the Critical Role folks played it in the very first campaign. I'm not familiar if they designed the class or if they got the class from another, it says publisher Mage Hand Press. Maybe that's just a third-party extra class that was involved. Obviously very much popularized this Gunslinger class. I am not very familiar with it, though. I don't know if... I think I reviewed somebody's take on the Gunslinger class like years and years ago, but it's been forever, and I never necessarily allowed it in my stuff because we only allowed official classes and subclasses, because there was just always like plenty, right? There was always plenty of material there in the official stuff. We never really had to go with any third-party stuff. Well, now, I mean, does this basically make the Gunslinger official if it's part of D&D Beyond? I don't know. But this is now on D&D Beyond. I think maybe it's been on D&D Beyond, but now it's officially the 2024 edition of the Gunslinger class. So I guess this is like the latest version of it. But I mean, if it's I don't know, that's tricky. It's technically published by not Wizards, so maybe it's the equivalent of like, well, do you let everything on the DM's Guild in your game? Well, not necessarily. So anyway, the Gunslinger class, Valda's Spire of Secrets, adds the Gunslinger in the official updated 2024 rules. It's full levels 1 through 20, includes 6 subclasses, new firearms, new maneuvers powered by the Risk Dice, which I guess is the main mechanic of the Gunslinger. Again, I'm not overly familiar with it. 9 spells and 3 feats. And yeah, as you all are already commenting, a little pricey for what is a single subclass, $14.99. I don't know. That seems I don't know what I don't really know what the monetization should be on this stuff. I'm used to looking at the DM's Guild and thinking that stuff is all way underpriced for folks trying to like, self-publish their stuff and then DM's Guild taking fucking 50% of it. But yeah, that it seems like a little much for a single subclass, even though it's got, or a single, sorry, I guess it is a full class, not a subclass. It's a full class with its own subclasses, which is fair. But yeah, that does seem a little bit pricey. But I mean, I like all the art and stuff that they include in here. Originally, the Critical Role game was Pathfinder. When they started streaming, they switched to 5e. I think I do remember that. One of the players was playing a gunslinger, so Matt converted it to 5e rules. Ah, okay, gotcha. So I guess that was a class in Pathfinder that they wanted to grandfather into 5e. Interesting. What's funny is I also started with tabletop-wise with Pathfinder before moving on to as a player and then doing 5e as well. I get these are the subclasses. Are they Spellslinger? Load spells into your gun and shoot magic at your foes. That sounds awesome. Deadeye, set your sights and deliver a single decisive bullet, like a sniper. Secret Agent, which is a dragonborn wearing a very modern day suit, which may not exactly fit with the rest of these. Be a suave, covert operative focused on stealth and subterfuge. That's also awesome. A white hat. Lay down the law and shelter your allies from harm. That's an interesting way of saying cowboy. I guess cowboy is kind of a gendered term. White hat. I've never thought of that. And I don't know, outlaw maybe? But I guess outlaw says you're against the law, which maybe this one is specifically you are actually on the law. Okay. But they clearly show like a cowboy type figure. High roller. Play liar's dice against the DM and win big. It's the description. Liar's dice is a fun game, by the way. Shout out to, God, what game taught me liar's dice? Was it Red Dead Redemption that did it? I think it was like the original Red Dead, where I played so much liar's dice, and then we'd play it like for like a party game and stuff. Really fun bluffing game. Or trick shot. Ricochet bullets hit targets from any angle. Nice. Okay, I mean, if I were to think of all the like classic tropey kind of superhero-esque gunslingers or type of badass characters, that's probably all the ones. Minus Spellslinger is probably a uniquely like D&D one, but the rest of them I could see fitting in. Although some of them are very specifically tied to certain like Secret Agent at White Hat, I guess. I don't know, you're playing like a Wild West or even like a modern day. I mean, I assume you could do the Secret Agent in obviously a D&D game, but it's just the image they chose is really fucking funny. And I think that's all the information we've got on here, though. Yeah, it does seem a little bit overpriced. Okay, 14 brand new firearms featuring new properties and weapon mastery properties, so that's nice. 3 new feats and 9 new firearm-focused spells, letting you conjure cannonballs mid-flight, instantly reload anything, and jam guns with a wave of your hand. Person class unlocked using D&D Beyond. Create Gunslinger characters, add them to campaigns, outfit them with new firearms and spells, and use them in maps. Well, I would assume that would all do that. $5 for a subclass and $10 for a class with subclasses, maybe, says Jim. Yeah. I mean, this does look like it's got everything that I would want from a full class. I mean, it's got really great art, a lot of subclasses. I don't know what this is. Just talking about all the things that it adds. Okay. But yeah, I don't know. That does seem a little bit pricey. But you know, I don't know, maybe players can afford it, whereas DMs, I guess DMs would have to have it too, though, right? I'm not sure how that if there's any kind of sharing on D&D Beyond, since I use all my shit with Roll20. Another thing I wanted to mention real quick on D&D Beyond, there's an exclusive Q&A with Delilah Dawson, author of Ravenloft, Heir of Strahd. So I previously talked about this new novel that came out, which, fun fact, I purchased and am currently reading. I just started this book. It's in my bedroom where I'd hold it up, but I talked about it like a week or two ago on This Week in D&D. It is a new hardcover novel that, from what I can tell, so I'm very early. I'm only like 30 pages in or something. It's and it does not. I don't think it tries to do fully Curse of Strahd. I think it mainly just does like the Castle Ravenloft, but it definitely has like a very fun, diverse like D&D adventuring party as the main cast, which I'm really digging so far. And then each chapter that I'm reading is a different character's perspective, which is kind of neat because they're all very different, like, you know, personalities and power sets and backgrounds and everything, as you do with a D&D adventuring group. So on D&D Beyond, and also I believe on their official Discord server, they're doing a Q&A with the author, which I'm streaming this at 11 something my time. I'm in the Central Time Zone. So this is going to be at 2 p.m. my time. So a couple hours from now, they're going to host a Q&A, which means you can right now go to D&D Beyond or, again, the Discord server and put in some questions. And then it says you'll get a chance to upvote each other's questions, and questions with more upvotes are more likely to be answered by the author. And it's not really a Reddit AMA because they specifically say there's things you can't ask, like no personal questions, no off-topic questions, and no questions of spoilers. So it's very much more of a scripted, like, hey, give us the questions ahead of time so we can like make sure these are the ones we want to answer. You know, it's a more controlled environment versus like a full like stand up there and answer questions thing. But that could be fun to talk to the author about the world and inspirations for characters and all that kind of stuff. So as I mentioned, I'm reading it right now. I will definitely do a video about it. I've done a few videos about D&D books that I've read in the last couple years, which have been less than a handful. I don't do a whole lot, but this one I thought like, okay, I'm familiar with the 5e Strahd campaign, and it just seemed pretty relevant. And I'll be honest, I like the cover art a lot, where it seemed to focus on the player characters, which I'm also into. So look it up though, Ravenloft, Heir of Strahd. This looks like it could be a fun little Q&A. Let's see what kind of questions are being asked right here. What if any software does she use for writing? That's a fine question. What kind of research did you conduct for the book? Do you have any writer's block? Just somebody who liked it. That's fine. I love this book so much. Just a huge Ravenloft fan. No, that's not a question. My question is, how are you able to so perfectly make Strahd a sympathetic villain? That's a great question. Did you create the characters using some form of D&D character monsters? If you were creating a party to run a Curse of Strahd, did you use imagination and create them from whole cloth? That's a good question. So yeah, there's some good stuff on here. How to make to feel something as well known and well loved as Curse of Strahd. I believe this author has written some D&D books before. She's also most well known, I believe, for doing Star Wars tie-in novels. I haven't read any of her stuff before. I don't read a whole lot of. I used to when I was younger, for sure. I obviously read a lot of Dragonlance. I read Star Wars. But I don't read a whole lot of officially like IP books anymore that I used to. I think I read like a StarCraft book one time. Trying to remember Warcraft, I'm sure. But these days it's more original fantasy stuff. So anyway, that's a Q&A for Delilah Dawson. All right, an exciting game got announced. You know, I got to talk about video games. I believe this was during Summer Game Fest, which occurred last week, and video games are basically in the middle of their E3 right now with just a ton of announcements and trailers, and freaking Steam has their own giant like Steam Fest going on right now. Like, I am very, very busy in my day job of covering a lot of video game stuff, but something I wanted to mention here for this week in D&D was Neverwinter Nights 2 Enhanced Edition was officially announced and is coming out very soon. It's coming out July 15th, next month. This is by Asper Media, who specializes in doing a lot of kind of ports or remasters of other games. Of course, it was originally developed by Obsidian, correct? I believe there's a joke about how Obsidian, a lot of their game, they did like sequels to like other people's, like BioWare's games. They did Knights of the Old Republic 2 and Neverwinter Nights 2, for example, and then they did Fallout New Vegas for Bethesda, and a lot of their 2s ended up being really, really good. So I played the shit out of this game back in the day. I've mentioned before that my main experience with Dungeons and Dragons over the last 20, let's see, obviously not the last 10 years, but for the last 10 through 20 years, if that makes sense, was through Neverwinter Nights 1 and 2. I absolutely played the ever-loving crap of both of these games. 2 is interesting because I think Neverwinter Nights 1 was very beloved, which, by the way, Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition was released years ago. I forget how many years ago, but it was, gosh, I think it was like 7 or 8 years ago now. It's a bit older. And it did a great job of giving it, by BioWare, a great job of giving us a D&D video game using 3rd edition, which was then like brand new, basically. And it allowed everybody to play through as a single player, like, you didn't have a party. It was just you, and then you could have like a companion with you. But the main thing it did was give everybody the tool set and the ability for you could have a DM live run a game, which was crazy, or B, you could create your own modules, basically, and then upload them. And this was before the fucking Steam Workshop. Like, this was, gosh, what even did we use to download shit? I don't even remember. But it was like the day of like downloading like zip files, having to put them in folders and stuff, which just seems like crazy now, right? Like, you don't have to mess with any of that. And it was like Neverwinter Nights Nexus or something. This sounds familiar. Was that how we did it? It was ahead of its time. It was way ahead of its time in terms of the community involvement, being able to create all these modules and like string together entire campaigns. I played so much content that way. Like, I so much Neverwinter Nights stuff I consumed. I never really made anything myself, but I just played the crap out of it. I made so many characters, and half of them didn't even get played. I just had fun making characters. Like, honestly, this was probably my biggest like into the world of Dungeons and Dragons too. Like, but before that, I had messed around with some of like the gold box games back in the day, but they were pretty old. Like I had the Beholder. Um, I don't remember the others, but they were like those are all from like the early '90s. I don't remember a whole lot of games from like the later '90s. Well, okay, Baldur's Gate, obviously from '98, which I did play some of '98 or '99. And I actually never played Baldur's Gate 2 until like I don't know, over a decade later, I finally played it. But Neverwinter Nights, that was my jam. Like it was at third, and that was the thing. Like before, I was, man, I was younger also, but I thought the first and second edition rules were just kind of clunky and challenging and stuff compared to a lot of like, JRPGs and other video games I was playing at the time. And then when I finally played Neverwinter Nights and was introduced to third edition, like everything clicked. I was like, oh, this is cool. I like this a lot. So that was Neverwinter Nights 1, which again, I played for years. I played all the expansions. Amazing experience. Then I'm trying to think also if we played it, gosh, because this would have been the era of LAN parties. I think we might have at one point played Neverwinter Nights. I'd have to ask Chris about that, but I think we did at some point play Neverwinter Nights together. In fact, I'm pretty certain of it. I don't know if we played the whole campaign or anything, but we might have played we played through like some modules or something together, literally like LAN party style with like all our big, CRT monitors stuff. This would have been back in the early 2000s. Which was high school, I think. The Neverwinter Nights 2 came out, I want to say 2006, so years later. And I thought it was honestly better in basically every way because it had a way... So Neverwinter Nights, the original full main campaign, was okay, I think. And that's ultimately what everybody thought. What made that so good... I realize I'm going off on a whole rant here, but I really do feel passionately about these games. What made it good was the tool sets and the ability to have all those modules people could make and download. Like that was just incredible and so ahead of its time, and et cetera, et cetera. And then the expansions were much better story-wise and everything. They were really good. Neverwinter Nights 2 came out, and the main campaign was way better than the original. Had a way better story, better characters, and it had the 3.5 edition rule sets, which of course basically became Pathfinder later on. So, it was all just well received. But for whatever reason, and again, I wasn't that familiar with the behind the parts tools of it all. It didn't really catch on with the community as much. People were just really plugged in and really enjoyed what Neverwinter Nights 1 could give everybody. And I wasn't quite sure why that was. Maybe, I don't know if the tool sets were more limiting. It had less things. It was harder to use. Whatever else was the problem, it didn't quite have the same support. So even though I loved the game a lot more, I ended up probably not playing it as much because I don't think it had as much of that content available to download and play through. I did remember purchasing and playing through the first expansion, Mask of the Betrayer, which everybody says was amazing and is really good story-wise. And in fact, you can probably see maybe some inspirations for Baldur's Gate 3's story hook, which is the fact that you have this thing inside you that's very dangerous. And that's like your motive. Actually, in fact, Neverwinter Nights 2's story is kind of like that, the base game as well. You get like a shard of like the shadow god or something like stuck in you. And that's what makes you special. So almost inspiration for that as well. I never played the third expansion, or the second expansion, I guess, which this one does come with all of that stuff on here. Yeah, Mask of the Betrayer was the first one. Storm of Zahir I never played. I think I purchased it one time years later and literally never went back and played it. And this also includes Mysteries of Westgate, which was not, I believe, an official expansion, but was an expansion by this other team that just never got released as a full expansion because it was kind of near the end of Neverwinter Nights 2's life cycle. And they did a really, again, it was still ahead of its time back then, where they were still trying to figure out like basically paid mods. Like, hey, can we actually charge people for these really good, big, and kind of call them expansions? And like DLC wasn't really even a term I think we used. I think it was just starting to be one. When did Oblivion came out in 2006? So this was just like at that first era of that. So I'm really excited about Neverwinter Nights 2 Enhanced Edition because I have such fond memories of that original game, and I would love a chance to play through, especially these other expansions. And again, I loved having just the full party experience, right? Again, original Neverwinter Nights, you did not have a full party of heroes, unlike every other D&D video game, which is all about having a party of heroes. That's probably the thing that bugged me the most about the original Neverwinter Nights. I keep on saying NWN, but W is such a weird letter because it has so many syllables. you only literally play. It was almost more like a Diablo where you played one character and then you could kind of have a companion with you, but I don't even think you could fully control that companion. It was weird. It was really hard to play like just a straight up wizard or something, for example. Whereas Neverwinter Nights 2, you could have a full. It felt like a proper, you know, RPG video game where you could have your full party of characters, and then you had a full base that you got to build up, and your party was chilled at your own castle basically, and then you could pull people out and put them in your party as you wanted to. So, and everybody had their own little quest arcs and things. So I really, really enjoyed that quite a bit. So I'm excited about Neverwinter Nights 2 Enhanced Edition coming out. I haven't really read even what it's. This is one of those where I'm just like, yes. I didn't even read about like what it all necessarily. Obviously includes all the expansions as I mentioned. See, key features, doesn't really talk about what the new things are. Okay, smoother gameplay with redefined camera controls. That's good because the camera, I think they had different like modes you could run it in, and you had to like choose the mode versus having it be like streamlined from one to the other. Polished mechanics. I don't really get into the details of this though. Enhanced textures. Okay, I understand what that means. And full controller support with a newly designed controller-specific UI. Not a game I would necessarily want to play with a controller, but obviously if they want to, which they did with Enhanced Edition, they want to put it on console, so you kind of need to make it doable with a controller. So I don't know the details about what exactly is coming. I haven't done the full research on Neverwinter Nights 2. It's crazy that they just announced it and it's already coming in like a month. Maybe I should play this for the channel. It could be over 100 hours of gameplay and 4 unique campaigns. Yeah. And then I don't know if it's possible. It doesn't mention the fact that what I'd really like to see ultimately is to have it be integrated with the Steam Workshop, like because all these games came with amazing like tool sets, like let people make their own stuff and then upload them. Okay, it does say craft your own solo or multiplayer D&D adventures or explore the creation of others. So it's not getting rid of that, at least. That's part of the game. But I don't know if it's going to be like tied to the Steam Workshop or have that kind of support, because that's what I ultimately want to see. I also haven't played through Neverwinter Nights 1 Enhanced Edition like I meant to forever ago. That would also probably be relevant for the channel and be very nostalgic for me, because again, I loved, absolutely adored playing through those games. But the only weird thing is, for me, so much of what I enjoyed from the first Neverwinter Nights was all of those countless modules and things that I downloaded and played, and not necessarily the base game. Whereas if I do a playthrough, I would probably just do the base game. Now, I remember liking the expansions quite a bit. The first expansion just had a completely different area that was really fun. And then the second expansion took you to the Underdark and was actually a high-level expansion. I forget where it started, but I think it went up to like epic levels or something crazy and was really nuts. And I remember that one being very, very cool. In fact, I think I remember playing that one co-op as well. Now that I think about it, this might have been like the earliest days of us like playing video games around the time was with Neverwinter Nights stuff. Well, we played other stuff, and yeah, because this was high school, we were playing games. Anyway, a lot of nostalgia for me for these games. So Neverwinter Nights 2 Enhanced Edition announced and coming out. I don't know exactly which all platforms it's coming. I really should have done some more research on it. I got so excited just seeing this that I was like, let's just stare at the Steam page for a hot second. So I don't know if it's coming out for multiple platforms. I assume because it's got controller support. It does say cross-platform multiplayer is supported. Obviously online play. Okay, it does say Steam Workshop integration here, so that's good. That's exactly what I want to see. Is there initial news post about it? There's not. Okay. All we got is screenshots and the trailer. But yeah, I'm stoked about it. I would definitely look forward to playing Neverwinter Nights 2 again for sure. Oh, yeah, they showed it on the Steam Deck. Nice. What else do we got? Oh yeah, more video game news. Solasta 2, which is at this point the other main 5e video game series. It's going to be a series. Solasta 2 is not out yet. Solasta 1 came out a couple years ago. I believe was like the first, I'm trying to think now, the first like 5th edition video game that importantly does not have the same IP as like Baldur's Gate does, for example. Baldur's Gate 3 obviously, takes place in the Faerun setting, Forgotten Realms setting, and uses all the names and location stuff. Solasta doesn't have that, but it does have the rule set. So basically uses the standard rules document, the SRD. So their latest news post, which again, Solasta 2 is not out yet, it's still coming out. They are officially switching to the 2024 rule set. Showing a picture of a cat here, which is kind of cheating. Ever since the announcement of Solasta 2, many of you asked us if we would consider updating our game's rule set from the original 2014 version. I forget when they first announced this game. Was it... I mean, 2024, we've known that's been coming for a while, so they could have announced it any time last year. I believe the demo's been out for a while. Sitting on my hard drive that I haven't played yet. To which we answered, let's wait for the new SRD to be released, which did eventually happen on April 22nd, a little more than a month ago. And they have decided that they are going to make that announcement, which was what they did during the stream earlier this week on June 10th. They are officially doing the 2024 rules. Our first game, Solasta, used the SRD 5.1 rule set, an extract of D&D 5th edition core system, also known as the 2014 version, now it is, as the core rulebooks were released in 2014. That's now 11 years ago. If that's too many acronyms, just think of Solasta 1 as using the 2014 rule set. Perfect. 3 years ago, Wizards of the Coast announced and then released a new version of D&D, initially called 1 D&D during play. Man, they're really going to the weeds. I appreciate this. During playtest, then later changed to D&D 2024. The new 2024 version is stated to be compatible with the 2014 version, share most of its core components. Also, there's a lot of improvements many D&D fans have been hoping for, such as more combat options for martial classes with a weapon mastery system, and reworking some features like the Ranger's favorite terrain, i.e. the entire Ranger concept. Enjoy playing your Forest Ranger when the campaign takes the Underdark. I like that they identify. You know, you can tell these folks, these developers, play 5th edition, which is nice. Like, they know their shit with it. Whether or not that translates to them making a video game is, you'll have to make your own decision for that. I do like Solasta, but you can tell that they definitely play a lot of D&D. And then, yeah, mostly an upgrade of the 2014 rule set. Due to the release of the 2024 version, many Solasta fans started asking us if we would use the new rule set in Solasta 2, which is what this article is about. So, those of you who played the Solasta 2 demo during February, God, have I had that demo downloaded since February? Damn it, I've got to play that. You already noticed it was using the same rule set as Solasta 1. So why is it using it now? Tactical Adventure is not using the D&D rule set per se, we're using the systems reference document. Right, so this is an important note. Remember how in only like another news stream I did last week or the week before that the SRD was officially updated with the 2024 rule set, which is an important note to make. This means that until now, there were 3 main points that prevented us from implementing the 2024 rule set. The new SRD was not available yet, which means we could not legally implement the new rule set. An important thing to realize. Number 2, we did not know its content. We did not know what could be included in the SRD or not. And number 3, we did not know the release date, so we couldn't know if we'd be able to change our rule set in time for early access and the demo, which was, again, they said February, and then the SRD didn't come out till April. So you know the SRD 5.2 was released on April 22nd, and yet we've been silent so far, mostly due to point number 3. Updating our game's rule set is no simple task, and we need to make sure we could commit to it before making any announcement. Can we implement those changes and still make it time for early access? Is there anything in there that doesn't work well in a video game? That's very insightful. So now we can say that we're committing to the 2024 rule set. Like everything in life, rolling a 1 is always possible, even though we don't wish for it. But yeah, we've started converting. They literally say, but yeah, we've started converting our system to follow the SRD 5.2, aka the 2024 version. So that's a 99% sure in our book. So they mainly say, what does that mean? That means weapon masteries can be a thing. Blah, 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 hits you with a mace. They're going to have different things that happen. Total of 8 weapon masteries: Cleave, Graze, Nick, Push, Sap, Slow, Topple, and Vex. Each of them granting more utility to martial classes top of the damage they already bring. And then class upgrades. Most class upgraded a new paint job and feel fresher than before. The Cleric no longer has heavy armor tied to their Divine Dominion or Divine Domain. Instead, they can choose level 1 being a Protector, which unlocks martial weapons and heavy armor proficiency, or Thaumaturge, which gives them, I believe, like another cantrip or something. Sorcerer now gets exclusive new shiny tools like Innate Sorcery, similar to the Barbarian's Rage, but for spell casting, which gives them a little bit of a buff. Fighter gets more non-combat utility with Tactical Mind, allowing them to use Second Wind to succeed ability checks, etc., etc. So that's what they highlight as the 2 main changes, is that weapon masteries for marshals, and then just kind of a class upgrade for everybody in general. Got a little bit of a rebalance and an upgrade. They don't mention monsters, but I do think monsters, for the most part, got also rebalanced and upgraded as well. Is it possible to have both 2014 and 20... by the way, I'm reading this off of the official Solasta 2 Steam page. Something I've noticed, especially as a journalist who covers video games, is that everybody just does everything through Steam now. Like, even if somebody like hyperlinks their game, like a lot of these like indies and stuff, they don't hardly even bother having a main website anymore. They're just like, just go to Steam. Like, Steam has become just the default page for all this stuff, which is not a bad idea. So like all these like news posts and stuff that I'm reading off of, this is literally just like the latest news post from, you can access it from the Steam page. Just click on the news section. Ever since the discussion around 2024 started, some people asked, "Be possible for us to include a setting to switch between 2014 and 2024 rule sets?" That is unfortunately not something we can do. It would be equivalent to us releasing 2 games at once. Solasta, at its core, has a strong focus on tactical combat and is known for its faithfulness to the rule set. Making sure our game works in 2 different rule sets, even though they share similarities, would take an incredible amount of time, not to mention the massive amounts of mental damage it would inflict upon our small and beloved QA team. Design-wise, every monster, every class, and subclass would need 2 different versions, and mini-spells no longer work the same, so yeah, again, they say yeah, this is not a possibility for us. Which I think is fair, and I'm glad they explained it like that. This feels like it's written by real fucking people who are like, yeah, no, this would be... Like, we're not a big studio. We're basically a small indie team. And that would, because we're tied to the rule set, it's not a simple, like, checkbox or something. There are entire spells that work differently, are rebalanced. There's entire abilities that would be coming online or coming offline. Like, just... Which I get why Wizards said, oh, yeah, we're backwards compatible. But if you ask me, man, I would almost not let people mix and match for balance purposes. It would have to be a very, very special situation. Like, if I wanted to run 2014 and somebody said, but I really like this change in this class, I want to run that. But then I know, looking at it, I'm like, well, that class is just, yeah, because it's just straight up better. Like, so how do you balance that with somebody who wants to play 24? So it's a weird deal where it became, one is just straight up like an upgrade, like across the board for everybody. So it is tricky to do that backwards compatibility. And also, I just don't know why people would want to stick to 2014. If I get why if you want to 100% stick to 2014, I get that. But I don't get why if you wanted to mix and match, who still wants to stick to 2014? Like, because all the new stuff is just power-wise, it's more powerful. So you would feel like the DM using monsters, I think, would feel underpowered. And then the player using a 2014 class would feel underpowered compared to the others. So that's the weirdness there. We want to know what you think about it. Just like for Solasta, we intend to make the game with you, our players, in mind. Then we have a short survey ready for you. Make sure you leave your opinions for us to be heard. That's nice. We're still cooking up the early access, which is slated to release later this year. Okay, so they have a demo that you can download now since February, I believe. I don't know if it's still available, but that uses the old rule set, and that makes sense because that's what they had to design it for. But now they're going to be changing it to the 2024 rule set, which is fun. I think that would be our official first 2024 D&D video game. Again, Baldur's Gate 3 exists on this weird, like, hey, we're definitely built on Dungeons and Dragons, obviously, and we use the IP. But those of us who play D&D, well, actually, there's a lot of differences there. You can't throw potions at people and heal them, and you can't like ready actions in Baldur's Gate. Like there's a lot of little and the initiative thing works weird where everybody's got like very little initiative differences there, so it's a lot of shared turns. It's stuff that works really well for a video game translation. Don't get me wrong. I think obviously Baldur's Gate 3 is a great game, but Solasta is the way more faithful game, for better or for worse, I think, because again, there may be some things that don't translate quite as well. I remember in the first Solasta, for example, they were real sticklers about lighting was a big issue, and then the stowing of weapons, which I never cared. And again, maybe that's just me being a lenient DM, but I never cared about people having to like, oh, we got to put away my shield so I can cast this spell, like. And then Solasta really cared about that. I was like, no, you got to like de-equip one hand and get a hand free to be able to cast that spell. Kind of like, I guess playing like Oblivion or Skyrim or something, right? Where you literally had to have the hand free to do the thing. But I never liked worrying about that in my tabletop RPGs, but maybe that's just me. Meantime, you can drop by our Discord server and community streams to ask or questions if you have any. So I think that's cool. I am obviously excited about Solasta. I enjoyed that first Solasta in spite of the horrendously unattractive character models. And again, I'm not saying everybody has to be just a supermodel, but like they were just, I mean, it's like how Oblivion, they were like potato people or something. It's like there was just a problem with the very art design and the way characters looked. It was not good. And frankly, if you're playing an RPG where you want to embody characters, you need to like your characters and like the way they look. So that was a problem. And then the story, I think, was just not super compelling either. And the world just doesn't, I don't know, it didn't really do anything for me. But I thought they did a great job of implementing the rule set, and the actual like tactical combat engine, everything worked great. And I have a whole playthrough of Solasta you can see on the channel back when it came out. I've not played any of the expansion stuff. Solasta 2 hopefully does better by the story and the world. Certainly this cinematic trailer is very cool looking. The graphics look much better. I can already see, you know, better models and everything. So, and it looks like it's the same cool, you know, again, tactical grid stuff. And yeah, I'm a fan of what they're doing. Okay, yeah, the demo's still available right now. So they haven't officially announced when that early access is coming out, but they did say it was just, what did they say, later this year? Yeah, early access slated to release later this year, and this is still the plan. But they haven't released a date for that yet. So that means we probably won't get the full 1.0 release until actually maybe next year. I like how stickly Solasta is, especially for lighting, made those vampire fights brutal. Oh, so you like the more strict stuff. That's interesting. I thought it was a pain in the butt, but yeah, I also, again, I'm a very lenient DM, and I never cared about that kind of stuff. And it's funny, I never cared about this stuff in my game, so I expect, you know, other games to not care about that stuff, or to care about it as little as I did, and that was not necessarily the case here. I did appreciate that as much as they were a stickler to the official 5e rule sets, that they did have a few options that you could change, namely that you could have enemies with individual initiatives, because they realized that does translate better in a video game. And in fact, I actually do that in my tabletop games as well. I have a way of, because I'm running a virtual tabletop, you know, I can see which ones are rolling with their initiatives. And I just think that's a lot more dynamic than having like your 4, you know, goblins all go at the same time, for example. And so far, I think my players have enjoyed that as well. It makes things a little bit more interesting when everybody rolls individual initiatives. And I enjoy that they had that as an option in Solasta. I think that was the only thing that ended up changing from the official rule set. They may have changed it again. I think I played it near close to launch, so I'm sure they've changed things since then. Allow you to freely roam the lands of Neokos, and then cover the map as you will. Okay, so maybe a bit more of an open world situation, which I don't think. I mean, the other one did have a world map, but you really always had a destination that you were going to. Travel was something I definitely want Solasta to improve on. I think those of us that played Solasta realized that it was also kind of nuts the way they used the travel encounter table, and was like, I don't know, when you get to like late levels, it's like, oh, here's like, I don't know, 2 full dragons you have to fight on your travel excursion. And of course, they ran into the same problem that a lot of D&D video games run into, which is like, how do we limit your resting ability, because everything is based on rests. And in the early levels, I think they did a good job of fixing that issue, and then by like level 3 or 4, you had the ability to like conjure food and drink, and it really didn't matter. You could rest whenever. So I'm also curious to see how they do the resting component with that, because it's always a bit of an issue with these games, I find. So looking forward to Solasta 2. My one issue with Solasta was the dialogue. I hated how you build a character to be the mouth of the party, and your charisma 8 is the one that makes the skill check. You know, I'm trying to think, was it Divinity that did a good job of this? I don't know if Baldur's Gate 3 does, because I play mainly through multiplayer. But that is a problem with RPGs, where like the first character that comes across a scene is automatically the one that has to deal with the scene, versus like the whole party being in the scene. And then obviously if you're playing like a D&D RPG, then you can just, all the players turn at each other, they sidebar, and then the one who's got the best, face skill usually, or maybe the one who's relevant to the quest, is the one who talks. I swear there was another RPG I played, I don't remember if it was Divinity or not, where you could literally swap like who was talking. And that was an amazing solution. Maybe in Divinity you could just back out and talk with somebody else, I guess. But I swear there was one where you could literally like click on a character or something, and they were the ones that were then the one talking. And thus they could make like the skill checks and stuff. Because yeah, it's not fair about which one, it's just whoever was like the lead person is the one that like triggers the cutscene or something. I never liked that idea. Final straw from was the 2 memorizes 2 days in a row. I was like, I'm done. Yeah, travel was so stupid, ridiculous in those games. I guess they were just using like the strict 2014 like encounter table rule that nobody. The problem is what 90% of DMs is going to do when you get to the travel section is you're going to be like, look, we're not going to do travel anymore, right? You're going to come up, you have a vehicle, you have teleportation, or you can just deal with whatever threat. Like, because if Remorazes are just like roaming the world, like there is no like economy or trade in this world. Like it's stupid. Like it doesn't make any sense that there would be like super strong monsters roaming around that would be able to threaten your high level party. I get like balance wise it's what they were going for, but like it doesn't, like, we don't need to do travel when we're this high level. It's just not something that should be interesting or involved. Look at the graphics, look way better though, man. That looks nice. And I need to play this demo and do a playthrough on the channel. We'll look for that whenever I have time. All right, very, very last thing I want to mention. Dragon X's Deadly Denizens 3 is coming to Kickstarter, and full disclosure, I am not unbiased when it comes to this series. I work with Dragon X a lot. They do a lot of sponsored videos that I cover. I can say that I really enjoy, obviously, this whole series. They're the creator of the Monster Manual series. Monster Expanded series, I believe, where it's the like variants and different versions of monsters from the Monster Manual. There's a whole series of those. And then Deadly Denizens is just the original monsters. So it's Dragon X creating a bunch of original monsters. A lot of them based on like different cultures, folklore and mythologies and stuff. And also like different, what am I trying to say? The stat block like styles or whatever, where you can transform certain monsters into like plants or whatever, like cold versions of the monster or something. Archetype maybe is the one I'm thinking of. Anyway, this should be launching, I believe, next week. Oh yeah, it says there June 17th. I am covering this right now, basically. I can say that. I'm doing a sponsored video for this series, or for this volume, I should say, and that will be coming out next week. So I wanted to give you all a heads up. Make sure to go to Kickstarter, notify on launch. I just can't get enough of these books. They're really, really good, and I haven't even found an excuse to really use a whole lot of these monsters yet, frankly, just because I've got, we've only barely looking at the new 2024 monsters now. But if you want new monsters, you can't go wrong with really any of these books. And I assume that I haven't been able to fully look at it yet. I just got access to it, but I presume that the third one is going to be just as amazing. Also, really friggin' great art throughout. You can see all the previews right here are just friggin' phenomenal. They do an awesome job with again, variants and different versions of monsters, as well as all new original creatures. So if you like the Monster Manual, I can't fucking say it, Monster Manual Expanded series, or if you've checked out the Deadly Denizens series, every time I think like, okay, now I've got enough, I'm like, nope, I need more. I think monster books are just like the most fun thing to have, even if I'm not really using them as much as I thought I would be. They're just really fun. All right, I think that is going to do it for this week in D&D. Thank you all so much for joining me, and as always, thank you so much for the patrons for helping to support the channel and making these live streams happen. Shouts to Platinum patrons: Joe, Will, Thomas, Brandon, Genocider, Roleplay Roll, Christopher, Big Nut, John L, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Love You Spuds, Warden, Eudaimonia LLC, Tom, 13 the Dogs, Marcus, Nugget, Hugo, Jerry, Shay, Sasha, and John, and Gold patrons: RPG, Paper Crimes, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Lizard Lounge, Jerome, Nathan, Basca, Torres, Scarface, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. Have a good rest of your week.